Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Tuesday, September 12th. Over the next few days, we will continue to have showers and thunderstorms, especially over the eastern half of the Great Basin. We will have a few isolated storms up into eastern Idaho and Wyoming, but the bulk of the precipitation will be further south into Utah and far eastern Nevada. Drier air starts moving in mid to late week, so we will see thunderstorm chances decreasing as we move towards Thursday. Also, a trough moving across the north will allow winds to increase over parts of southern Idaho with relative humidity near 20%. So we could see some activity on ongoing fires up there or some holdovers kicked up depending on how dry the air is with these winds kicking up. But generally winds around 25 or even 30 miles per hour. So nothing overly strong, but certainly breezier than what we've seen up north. Over the last 24 hours, we've seen scattered thunderstorms across really much of central Nevada and more isolated activity into Utah. The bulk of the precipitation was associated with the lightning in Nevada, again with lesser activity into Utah, but we did see higher humidity. And we are seeing some morning showers and thunderstorms over southern Nevada and southwest Utah and parts of the Arizona Strip today. Great Basin fire activity yesterday was light, with only 2 fires reported for less than an acre. Over the last 7 to 14 days, again, we have had some very wet conditions, but that was over a week ago. Over the last week, more scattered precipitation over generally the eastern half of the Great Basin. Some of the drier spots still have been southeast Utah, parts of western Utah into northwest Nevada, and parts of west central and southern Idaho. Our ERC point map shows all ERCs really below the 50th percentile. We are seeing ERCs decrease in Utah with the moisture that's been in place for the last few days, and ERCs continue to rise slowly over northwest Nevada up into Idaho where the drier air has been in place. Our ERC charts show this increasing trend up in Idaho. ERCs are still below normal, but we are seeing the grasses dried in southern Idaho, so we are seeing those drying conditions. Further south, over eastern Utah where we have our large fire, the Lighthouse Fire, we are seeing ERCs near normal for the time of year. Looking at our sagebrush live fuel moisture in parts of eastern Utah and up into south central Idaho, they are still in the critical levels below 125%. So again, as conditions dry, we certainly could see some increasing fire activity, especially during the daytime periods. Our satellite loop from this morning shows generally a trough of low pressure approaching the northwest coast. This is what will swing through northern Idaho tomorrow, kicking up the winds in southern Idaho. Otherwise, plenty of moisture in place over the southern areas of the Great Basin, as you can see from the cloud cover and the early morning showers and thunderstorms. We also have some moisture into northeast Nevada, parts of southern Idaho, northwest Utah, so we certainly could see some activity, albeit isolated, up there as well. So for later today, the better chances of thunderstorms will be over the eastern half of the Great Basin. We will continue with low fire potential, still some pockets of moderate in our drier spots of northwest Nevada and southern Idaho. Relative humidity later today will be driest in the northwest, where relative humidity will drop to near 20% or even into the teens, even up over southern Idaho. Winds will remain light today with the exception of any gusty outflow winds. As we move into Wednesday, the drier air starts to push in from the west, pushing that lightning activity again mainly to the eastern half of the Great Basin. We are showing some drying trends on our significant fire potential map, so a little bit more yellow on the map for the western half of Nevada, and then continuing up in Idaho. Relative humidity generally in the upper teens over the western half of the Great Basin, much higher over eastern areas. So even areas near the Lighthouse Fire, if they don't receive much significant precipitation, they will still continue with the higher humidity going for the next couple of days. Winds will be increasing with that trough of low pressure moving into the north, so we will see gusts around 25 or 30 miles per hour over southwest and southern Idaho, also dipping down into northern Utah and northeast Nevada. We'll also see northwest winds on the east side of the Wasatch start to pick up as well on Wednesday towards the Lighthouse Fire. Even though relative humidity will still be on the higher side, we could see those wind gusts in the 20s. Moving into Thursday, we see a stronger ridge of high pressure really starting to build along the west coast, pushing that drier air into the Great Basin, pushing much of the lightning activity into just the far south or far eastern areas of Utah. Relative humidity continues to dry on the western side, and we will see those relative humidities start to drop in Utah. Otherwise, light to moderate winds, maybe not as gusty as what we'll see on Wednesday up in the north, but still some pockets of wind gusts in the 20s to near 30 miles per hour. 3-day forecast amounts of precipitation. The heaviest precipitation will occur in the higher terrain of Utah and also up into Wyoming, with more scattered areas of precipitation further west and dry conditions continuing over western and northwest Nevada and western Idaho. As we move into later in the week, we are expecting a drying pattern nearly region-wide, so that dry air really spreads across the Great Basin by Friday. And you will see more areas of yellow on the significant fire potential map, even pushing into northwest Utah and eastern Idaho. Those drier conditions continue on Saturday, although we could see a few pockets of isolated clouds over the western areas as that trough moves in, and then continuing into the weekend as well. That continued drying trend across the Great Basin, pushing our significant fire potential still in the low to a low-end moderate range. And then Monday, similar conditions, although we could see some showers and thunderstorms starting to pop up as we get a little bit of moisture to creep into the Great Basin. Otherwise, very little changes to our 7-day total precip. Any precipitation after these next few days will be very spotty and very light, if at all. And then the 8 to 14-day outlook, taking us from September 19th through the 25th, shows a return of some wetter conditions, especially to parts of northwest Nevada and southwest Idaho that have been really in this drier pattern, so we will start to see some moisture later in the month. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.